You're all set to begin.
Thank you. Good morning. We'll call to order the May 15th meeting of the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, and with me are legislators Brown, Mezey, and Lane. And who's our fifth one that's not with us?
Susan was. Susan's left.
Okay, Susan Currie recently moved on to another position. Are there any changes to the agenda? I've got a script here to follow, so we should be fine. I'm going to move on to public comment, and I've got two blue cards that were submitted, and when these were filled out, they gave the rules for the speaking under privilege of the floor. I don't think I need to go through that this morning, but I'll ask the first one, and forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, but Diana Cole? Diana? Hi, Diana. If you want to step up to one of the microphones there. And it says, topic today is sign clutter.
Hi, Randy. Yeah. I'm a native Ithacan. Obviously love this place and love the environment and want it to stay as beautiful as possible. So over the past year, I have communicated with Joe Slater and Jeff Smith, and then Rod Howe, who recommended I come to this committee about the sign clutter. And I'm going to pass around these after I'm finished the pictures. But I live on Coddington Road and have been there for 9 years. And there's more and more signs being put up. And many of them are so unnecessary, and I'll show you, but one of them is driveways. For probably 6 to 9 miles, there are driveways all along Coddington Road.
If you're back about 4 inches from the mic and don't put your hand on it, we hear you better.
Okay, is that good?
That's good.
Okay. So, like I said, there are all these driveway signs when there's driveways for 6 to 9 miles. And obviously clutters the road, and you can't see the beauty of the roadside. And then there's a couple other places. I've been all over the county. 79 also has these huge signs for Burns Road and Weedmeyer Court, which is a dead end with 5 houses on it. And there's this huge sign for there, both ways. Why is that? It's even a road that is dead end. So I can give other examples. One is Oak Brook on Route 366, and also another one on Judd Falls Road. I could go on and on. Why are we having all these extra signs? And especially since the roads themselves, like Burns, has a new green sign on the road, which is so easily seen. So I'm here to advocate for the Mother Earth here and hoping that we can make a difference. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I just love this place and hope that you can be helpful to me.
What types of signs? What are some examples?
I will give you
actually
pictures, but they're big yellow signs. The ones I was right before Burns Road. Weedmeyer Court, a huge yellow sign on both directions. I have no idea, but I will give you pictures and you can actually see them. Is there any questions?
Any questions from committee? I'm wondering a little bit about the town codes as to what's permitted. They tend to be the ones that regulate the signage.
Well, when I spoke over a year ago to Jeff Smith, who's in the highway department, he said he sent me, and so did Joe Slater, some of the state rulings, and he said that he had some discretion. So I don't know what that means. Actually, there were 2 signs of the Amish people on my road, and there's no Amish people on my road, and he did take those down. Those were the only ones. But this is what I mean about, so many signs. And I loved the last committee I was at, Rod Howe, somebody called it sign clutter. So this clean up the environment. Randy.
Yeah, Don, you've brought this issue up a few times with us. So when I drive around, I look more at signs than I used to just to see if they make sense. And I'm driving from in Newfield 13 to here. There's literally a sign that says 45 miles an hour, and within 50 feet it says 15 miles an hour for the roundabout. And so they just keep adding signs. I don't think they take them down. These are state roads, but so I've noticed just on that stretch from Newfield to Ithaca, 3 signs that were either redundant or obsolete because they put a new sign up but never took the old sign down. So I don't know how that's handled, but Jeff is here and we have talked about this quite a bit, and so I'm not sure how to go about with the state to let them know that these signs are obsolete. I don't know the process for that, but.
Okay, thank you. Like I said, I will hand out some pictures.
Thank you. I also have a card here from Nicholas Finelli, Town of Ithaca, and the topic is safe streets. Hi, Nicholas.
Hello, my name is Nick Finelli. I've lived in Ithaca now for 7 or 8 years. For the last 3 or 4 years on 79, right by kind of 6 Mile Creek Winery and Pine Tree Road. And Pine Tree Road is actually why I'm here today. I guess I wanted to ask that the committee kind of move that up on its capital prioritization list for sidewalks and alternative transportation down that corridor. Living right there, I drive down it multiple times a day. It's a very dangerous shoulder on that intersection. Drivers, 79 in that area is 45 miles an hour. I would say most drivers are going closer to 55. The way that road curves, they cut straight through that shoulder pretty much every time somebody turns down that road, which is a main commuting corridor for anyone going to campus for work. So that shoulder is very dangerous on the corner. And then as you go up Pine Tree Road further, the shoulder essentially completely disappears right before the bus stop. So there's a lot of pedestrians and people waiting for the bus there, and the bus stop is kind of just shoved into the bushes off the road because there's no place for people to stand for the bus. There's a lot of people walking back and forth with East Hill Plaza in that area, the rec ways in that area. And I know that, both Cornell and the town have talked about kind of long-term plans at East Hill Plaza, so it seems like something that's on the agenda to happen at some point. But I guess I see dangerous situations there pretty much every day, so I was hoping to request that it get moved up the priority list, and I know it's a county road.
Pine Tree Road, and where in particular, again?
So between like Hunnis Lane and 79 is the area.
Jeff, just a Pine Tree is a county road? Okay. I haven't memorized them all yet, so thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need to be at a microphone, Jeff.
Sorry, Jeff, you walked into that one.
I just wanted to share that I've been in touch with Nick, it is right, and he emailed our group his concerns, and we've shared it with some town representatives and also the state representative, and there's some work being done on the issue at this time, checking into things and stuff. The state intersection with 79 and Pine Tree would be a state issue. The sidewalk issue, we've always supported sidewalk projects, but they are ultimately a town issue. Town would build a sidewalk, the county would help with the project, but ultimately it becomes town maintenance ownership. Thank you.
I think there's a couple things between the last speaker and this that maybe we could follow up with Rod Howe or the town of Ithaca. But
Thank you.
Jeff, if you could keep us apprised, and Nick, it's a matter of being on the record now, and we'll look into it. Thank you for coming in, both of you.
Okay. Nick, I live on 79 and I drive that multiple times a day, and I know sort of what you're talking about there. You can take that curve onto Pine Tree pretty quick. And depending on time of day, there's definitely, people in that area. So I appreciate you raising that concern.
Thank you. Mike?
With sidewalks, and I'm a fan of sidewalks, but there has to be a sidewalk ordinance in place, I suppose, with the town of Ithaca, so that it's clear who has the obligation to maintain them in the future, like remove snow and ice, and normally the property owner has that. And so I certainly remember when we were doing up outside of Cuga Heights, there was a big arguments with the property owners about having the sidewalk installed at all. So we need to be careful and keep all the property owners apprised of whatever we're doing up there.
Let me ask one more question, Jeff. Are we looking at any major projects up through there, or are we kind of gauging the development that East Hill Plaza and Cornell have been talking about for quite some time?
The section of Pine Tree between Hannes and 79, we've recently paved it. It's not in terrible condition. We always have to keep looking at it and possibly doing some work. We've done some tree trimming through there. But there's no major projects scheduled at this time. The area of funding is a TAP, so Transportation Alternative Program grant. There was one recently awarded. Nick, in his email, informed me of all of that. Similar to what Mike was talking about, discussed many years ago, we actually applied for a grant, a TAP grant, to put a sidewalk down through there, and it met with some resistance at the time, and that was pretty much all that happened with it at that time. Ultimately, even at that point, again, the sidewalks would have gone to the town, and they would have had to sign off, and they would have been a stakeholder in the design, whatnot, through that process. But I also have shared and make the committee aware that the town of Ithaca has a master plan for sidewalk locations, and this is on that plan. I'm aware of that. It's been there for years, so they do have an interest in creating a sidewalk. But to Mike's point, there could be some people that have different feelings that live along Pine Tree. We haven't really talked with them about any of this at this time. I'll just stay up here.
Jeff, related to the bus stop, is that a TCAT bus stop? So whose responsibility is to maintain that area?
So I think the location, I'm not completely clear on the locations of the TCAT bus stop. I know that there's one at the end off of Hannes at the end, kind of straight across the road. There's kind of a pull off there. That would be, the sidewalk area is pretty heavy in there. That's a town sidewalk around the bus stop, and then the roadway would be the county's roadway. That was designed and placed there many years ago. I'm not sure how that actually happened, but I think there's another stop at the bottom near on 79 that is the one that they're referring to as feeling that there's pedestrians getting off and on the bus. It's a quick corner. That's going to be a state intersection where the flashing light is. There's mention of pedestrians like swimming and a lot of different activities in and around that area, but that's all the 79 corridor. When I responded to the initial email, I brought town of Ithaca representatives and I brought state representatives, and we've heard from both of them that they're kind of looking into it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on. Minutes from April 17th were distributed. Any corrections, additions, or motions? Moved. Randy moves to approve. Greg second. All in favor? Unanimous. Chair's report, I'll hold off on that. We've got discussion today on downtown facilities. I think Randy's going to be bringing several updates to us or issues. County Administrator, anything for us today, Corsa?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think our report is also centered around the same resolution, so we also hold on to that. And besides that, we don't have any other update today.
Okay, thanks, Corsa. Welcome, Norma.
Thank you.
Transportation, we've got Megan McDonald, Deputy Planning and Sustainability Commissioner, and she's bringing forward a resolution, appropriation and contingent fund. Is Megan with us? Yep, there she is.
I am. I'm just having trouble with my camera. Apologies.
Do you have any report or just the resolution for us?
It's really just the standard resolution.
Why don't we move that onto the floor? Moved by Greg, second by Randy. And this is a resolution appropriation from contingent fund terminal pay, the Department of Planning and Sustainability Transportation Planning, ID number 13237. And that appears to be a standard resolution for terminal pay. Any discussion?
I'd just like to note that it's for a total of $8,888.84.
Thank you. If no further discussion, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
We'll move along to the Highway Department. Jeff, we're giving you some exercise today here.
A little exercise does me good. Got to get in the mic here. Today, hello everyone.
Good morning.
I'd like to introduce, I think most of you know Nick Ensign, my deputy, and also with us today is Kelly Chapman, a project manager that works in the department, kind of steers and keeps all of our capital projects moving along, working with various stakeholders and DOT. They're here in case I can't answer a question, basically. They volunteered to come here today. So don't feel obligated, but I'd really like to ask a few questions.
I'm sure they appreciate that.
I am sure, thank you. First up, capital payment summary report. If you have any questions, there's one item, it's a payment to Labella for Fall Creek Road rehab. Nothing too the ordinary there. And then for the county's highway F&I consideration resolution, couple resolutions. One of them is for the highway department to enter into a multi-year contract with Cintas. This is for our uniform contract. We haven't had to do this. The company is forcing us in order to give us a contract at all. They're requiring it to be extended more than 2 years, 3 years contract. They have not held us to that over the years. They've allowed us to keep renewing 1-year contracts, but we have been with this company. We're happy with the service. That's the reason for this resolution.
Why don't we move that resolution under 8B, authorization for Tompkins County Highway Department to enter into a multi-year agreement with Cintas for uniform rental, ID number 13305, moved by Randy, second by Greg. Questions for Jeff on that? Go ahead, Mike.
Is there an escape clause in the contract if we need to get out?
I can't say that for sure. I have not read the agreement. It's a multi-year agreement, and I know it's the same prices for 3 years. This is a contract item in the labor contract.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know it's not really related in some ways. We're required to provide uniforms for some of certain
Sure.
employees. That's what this is.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's a little bit similar, but I would have to check that. We've been with this company for years. There may or may not be an escape clause at this time. I'd have to look.
Well, depending on where the uniforms are made, it might be, in the tariff situation, it might be a good thing to have a 3-year contract. Of course,
I just want to add, we have a standard contract form that risk and compliance officer reviews. So all our contracts do have an exit clause based on specific set of provisions. So yes, there will be an exit clause in it.
Good.
Randy?
What's the total cost of this per year? Does anybody know?
It's not a large cost, and I don't even have that.
Well, if it's $140 a week, it's $7,280 plus or minus any other additional fees. That's 52 weeks in the year.
If you add it all up, yeah, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, this is probably Norma or Corsa. Do we have other contractual obligations to provide uniforms for any departments or laundering of those uniforms?
Yeah, I think apart from the sheriff's office and door, other uniforms are just for customer service and identification, like assessment or other departments. So now only those departments do have uniformed.
I'm guessing, Jeff, these are probably your mechanics or folks in the
mechanic and
heavy
welders.
equipment repair, et cetera?
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's small.
Yep.
Small number of people.
Further discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Jeff. And your other item?
It's also a resolution for consideration. The Safe Streets for All Joint Safety Action Plan has now been completed by a consultant. If you all may recall, back in 2022, we all joined in on a group resolution. All the towns, the city, and the county applied for a grant. The city was the lead on that. The grant we did receive to hire a consultant to do and provide this study, researching the data. This is really a Vision Zero goal, which is 0 deaths and major injuries on all of our roads in the county. There is a pretty large document attached to this that you could go through if you happen to have time and you're looking at it and you have any questions at all. Please feel free to get in touch with me or staff and we would try and get an answer for you.
Okay. Why don't we get this on the floor? 8C resolution authorization to adopt the Safe Streets for All, SS4A, Joint Safety Action Plan and Vision Zero Goal, ID number 13303. Moved by Greg, second by Randy. Committee have any questions for that? This is an adoption. Is it?
Why we're adopting it versus accepting it. Adopting it means we're going to implement it.
So it is goal-oriented. There isn't hard, fast language or cost associated with this. I don't think that word, if you wanted to change that word, I think that would be friendly. The appendix, that's a good point, and the appendix on the large document that is attached will be all of these resolutions. And this is language that we received at the request of the consultant through the committee of people working on this project.
Well, I think it's good work, but I do think we ought to accept it. I don't want to bind us to it.
Is that friendly to the mover, seconder? I think that's all right.
Authorization to accept.
Okay, we'll make that change. Questions for Jeff on this? Mike?
Randy?
Or Randy?
That was a big document with a lot of information and data. Who collected all the data? The consultant through the state? Is that, who collects this type of data?
Yeah, there was multiple contributors that pulled together data. I know Fernando's office, ITCTC, was very instrumental. They do have access and can provide that sort of data. But it was also state police. I don't know, Kelly worked on it. Clear, which is an accident, it used to be called Alice, I think, now it's Clear, which is an accident recording software.
So is the plan, by accepting this, to then the ability to, with this document, to apply for grants for this in this process?
Yeah, I think I left that out earlier when I spoke to the idea of initially getting involved with the request or the application for the grant. And if you are successful, the very clear language that in order to have an opportunity to go after future grant funding, you had to have this first piece completed. So it was great that we, on that early round, were successful with the grant applications. I'm not going to take any credit through our office. The city really ran that. We provided some information, but it was great to get accepted and then to go on and procure a consultant to do the work. And so this is now the next step. Now would be the time with this identified in that large document that gives us the vehicle to now have better access to grants to approach and maybe look at and review and improve our problem areas, our areas that show higher numbers of accidents and things like that.
Yeah, I saw in the document that they rated the areas by low, medium, and high, I think. Was there another category than that, or so they rated them somehow as the most at-risk areas, I guess? I know the town of Newfield went through it and they talked about the areas that were identified in their area, and they agreed with some and didn't agree with others. So if they wanted to apply for a grant, would it still be through the city? Would still be managing the point people on this, or?
So now that this is completed, I think it would be up to each individual municipality to apply for a grant, and they would use the data in this report to insert into the grant information that would probably be required to go forward on a grant.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
It appears, just a couple of things, the overall plan goal, elimination of fatal crashes and a 50% reduction in serious injury crashes by 2040. I noticed that there's a task to designate a Tompkins County SS4A Joint Safety Action Plan Vision Zero Coordinator. Who might that fall underneath to move this forward?
There's some things in here that are unanswered. For sure. I'm not sure. I don't know if Kelly has an idea.
It was brought up. I think it's ITCTC.
Your microphone.
I believe that ITCTC has talked about maybe that being run through their office, since they are obviously broader than just the highway for county.
Okay, so we get a framework moving forward. Further questions? All in favor of accepting the plan? Are there any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further you'd like to bring us today? You brought us the bad news last month, so.
I mean, I could speak to that if you wanted, but I mean, I think everyone's aware that I've decided to retire at the end of July. I'm the right age and I've done this type of work for many years in advance, over 30 years, and it's time to look at other broader horizons. I've enjoyed my time here. It's been a great 13 years with Tompkins County.
Hard to believe it's been 13 years.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, it's been a pleasure working with you in various capacities, and we're going to miss you, but I know you get a strong team following behind you here.
Yep, been working on that. They are a true asset.
Greg?
I don't know if any members of the committee have, but I've had the opportunity to talk with members of various town highway departments that speak very highly of your department. your leadership, your intermunicipal cooperation, and have expressed strong desire for that inter-cooperation to continue. So I think that's a testament to your leadership and also the team that you've assembled, and realize the importance that it's a much bigger ecosystem than just the county, and everybody's got to play together. So thank you for creating that in your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I'd add on to that. I remember we were kind of disjointed before Jeff came with us. We'd had a couple of directors who the last one hadn't stayed a long time, and a couple of them had changed. Jeff brought a high level of professionalism here, and that's been really appreciated. And the way he handles complaints from the public, responds quickly, doesn't always solve the issue, but they know that he is hearing them and listening to them. I think that's a real plus, and it's made Tompkins County look very good at the Highway Department.
Thanks, Mike. I know you got plagued with 3, 4, 5 major storms, and we spent a lot of time on mitigation updates and trying to address some of those severe flooding areas, and we were able to tackle some of those up Ludlowville area and Lansingville and out Newfield and wherever else. So, and I don't hear as much about that anymore. So.
No, that seems to have quieted down.
I think we got ahead of it.
Another big test on the department was, in countywide, globally really, was COVID. And you can't work from home at the highway department. You still got to get out there. So it did create some large efforts. And that was a lot of the staff that really handled that very professionally.
What's your target date?
July 25th.
We'll see you a couple times here before then.
For sure. Thank you.
And Greg's got one more question for you.
West Dryden Road, speed reduction. Did the loop ever get closed on that, or is that still out there?
It's still out there. The state has not responded with the final determination of their study.
Is there an anticipated, or are we just at the pleasure of the state?
We can start asking them where they're at. I'm a little surprised it's taken this long. I thought of this a few weeks ago, and I was like, okay. And I want to say that there was a resident email kind of for an update, and we let them know that we hadn't heard anything. This was maybe earlier this year. Could have even been like January, February. And since then, it's kind of occurred to me we haven't heard anything. I can do that and let you know if they, what they respond with.
That'd be great. I appreciate that.
Let the whole committee know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick, Kelly, thanks for coming down too. We'll move on to the airport. Roxanne's on with us. I see Josh as well. Good morning, Roxanne.
Good morning. I'm not sure if Jeff can still hear me, but I want to give a shout out for all the help he's given the airport. But also Coddington Road looks amazing. Kudos. You guys had a rough winter there, but it looks fantastic. So I want to just state that.
He's nodding back at you here.
And congratulations.
What, any report for us before we move to your resolutions, Roxanne?
Sure. I just have a quick update. So I was hoping to have some official numbers on the Washington flight. I don't have official data from the airline yet, but I have heard from many passengers. I do still answer the phone here, people calling, or I've heard also from a couple of the legislators that have been on the flights, not only Washington, but the JFK. Flights have been full, flights have been on time. They've had great connections. So I just wanted to report that. I'm hoping for the June meeting, I'll have some official data from both airlines on that, but I've heard positive. So I'm hoping things are still moving forward there, and we're still working on the third flight issue. So that's still in process, and I'll keep the committee apprised on that as well.
The third one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm working on that too, so.
Not to Newark, right?
Not to Newark. No, we, I guess I can say thankfully, got out of that just in time, not only for the air traffic control issue, but also they're doing runway construction down there as well. So the move to Dulles, end of March, I had nothing to do with it. I can't take credit for that. So, but it was a good timing on both, cooperation with the airline, airport, county. So kudos for that.
When are you going to be ready to bring forward the strategic business plan?
June is my goal date. I got the information back from the consultant. I'm putting together information today for the ASB meeting on Monday to go over the changes. And then my plan is to present what we feel as airport administration, county administration, and the ASB feel moving forward works and is doable in the strategic plan. There's a lot of information in there. Some good information, some information that, we're not really sure fits in at this time or even down the road. So we're going to kind of look and pull what we really feel are critical operating points moving forward.
We'll block out a fair amount of time for you in the June meeting to bring that forward. Air Services Board, they're probably reviewing that as well.
Monday.
On Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I sent the report out when it came in from the consultant, but I'm going to try, because it's a huge document, so I'm going to try to pull together key points, and I've been working on that as well.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Yep. Thank you.
Why don't we move ahead on the agendas that Roxanne's got for us? Start with 9A, authorizing award of bid and anticipated receipt and acceptance of Federal Aviation Administration and New York State Department of Transportation grant for the Air Rescue Firefighting SRE building site work, Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, ID number 13301. And do we have a motion? Moved by Randy, second by Mike. Want to brief us on that?
Absolutely. So I can kind of give you a briefing on the 4 resolutions that are in front of you today. They all relate to our capital project that we plan, our airport, capital improvement program. So these are the 4 grants that the FAA we have applied for. We don't have the grants in hand yet, but to streamline the process, it makes the most sense, because usually when we get the grants in, it's usually a turnaround time of less than a week. So to try to, get F&I approval, get ledge approval, we're anticipating receiving these grants, so that's why it's there. If we receive the grants, that's when the contracts are awarded. So we're just stating that, yes, we anticipate receiving the grants. If we do receive, we are accepting them, and we'll award the contracts as such. We used to do, I think, 3 resolutions. We were able to cut it down to 1, and it all fits in. So that's what these relate to. And also for 2025 and 2026, the federal funding is 95% that we're due to receive, whereas normally it's a 90%. So we are, doing these projects in these years too is a benefit, because we get additional funding and cuts our funding down to 2.5%. And that's on all 4 as the resolutions there.
Questions from committee? Mike?
Randy was first.
Oh, okay, we'll start with
Go
Randy.
ahead, Mike, I'm right.
He defers to you.
I'm just wondering the breakdown of our local costs, and I just wondered if Corsa is on board with this and is recommending that we move ahead.
Okay. Yes, we've been working on these, and it has been part of the plan, so I don't think we have any concerns moving this forward.
So, Roxanne, what would the breakdown of the local costs now be, estimated?
So for this part, the first resolution is for the site work. And this is also going to take into funding the congressional direct spend that we were awarded as well. So that's funding in there. So for this one, it's right around just over $100,000 for this project, based here on the 2 local share amounts down at the bottom of the resolution.
And where does that money come from?
So PFCs, ultimately, what we'll do is part of this will come from the PFCs and part of it will come from airport fund balance, depending, so that it just is, our PFCs, we're still working through finance. We have a meeting on that to see where exactly we are. We aren't collecting, obviously, as quickly as we were in the past. We are starting to collect more at this time. As our flights increase, we were up 13% last year. It will be reimbursed. So initially it comes from the county if we don't have it in the fund balance or the PFC account. And then we reimburse the county.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Randy and then Greg.
A few questions. Norma, could we get just an email with what the current fund balance is at the airport, just to have that on radar? I'm concerned about the cost of everything because, you know, the airport still is not financially independent. So and one of the questions is about geothermal, which we put in contingency funds, I think $250,000 for that portion of it. And you said in this document that we're not sure that the FAA is going to fund any of that. Is that still the case?
We've applied for the waiver for that. We're working with the FAA to get that funded because of the situation of where the airport's located and the gas moratorium. But we don't have that answer yet, and that will come along with before the grant, I would imagine.
Okay, so if we accept this, move this forward, and the project is approved by the FAA, do we have to spend the money, or do we get the money up front and we get reimbursed?
The reimbursement is extremely quick. So when we get invoices in from the contractor, we don't expend the money up front. Usually the drawdown happens even before the invoice is paid. We have drawdowns happen within a few days.
Okay. And the other one, so once this building is built, we have to pay to heat it and maintain it. Is that, this project will be done for till 2027, is that correct?
I think we're actually up to 2029 because we've broken it up to smaller projects for funding purposes. I don't have the full ACIP in front of me, but it's 2028 or 2029, I believe.
Okay. So at that point, you'll have to add to the budget what's going to cost to maintain the building and those kind of things. So, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
To that point, you'll be moving a number of your operations into the new building, correct? And then
yeah, the full CFR building, we will all move over to the new building. And so so our building currently isn't heated with geothermal. The new building, you know, is anticipated to be, so there'll be, you know, savings there, and then we can repurpose this building.
what are your thoughts as far as the CFR building? It's a fairly substantial property.
So I've put out an RFP. It's actually in procurement, and we'll be going to legal for the customs facility on repurposing that, on, you know, uses, see what we can get. And same with this building. There's some ideas that came out in the strategic plan. There's many opportunities that could be anything from a school to a medevac, you know, company.
But more than likely, it won't be part of the aviation programs moving forward. It's a excess property that the county would have to move forward with some other purpose.
It would need to be related, aviation related in some form, because it was initially FAA funded. So the, you know, FAA owns the, you know,
right,
paid for it. But we can, you know, whatever information we get in, we can work with the FAA on, you know, with the repurposing of the building.
No, I mentioned that just to keep it on the radar here. And
absolutely,
we're having
thank you.
Broader discussions about county facilities.
Yeah, just to add to that, we have met with the sheriff's office. We told the facility to look at also options that potentially we can repurpose that facility to meet the sheriff's office needs. So that is also part of the process and the ongoing conversation with Roseanne and her team, and then we should be able to come up with something that will fit the needs of FAA or the requirements of FAA, and also give us value for the investment.
Good to hear. Greg, did you have a question?
Yeah, just to clarify, the money that we have in capital for geothermal up there is for Dewar, right? Not for the airport, or do we have money for the airport?
We presently don't have funding in geothermal at all.
At all?
So I think what maybe Randy was referring to is the money that got put into the contingent fund to investigate or to see if we were eligible for additional funding to move forward with geothermal at the Department of Emergency Response.
We earmarked $250,000 in the contingency fund for
and
that
presently
potential.
that is not the case, that we've not secured those funds at this point.
Because that was a $4 million?
That's a $4.5 million project.
And the reason, just to refresh memories,
Terry's
that
here.
we couldn't package it all together is because of proximity and distance. It couldn't be
Correct.
part of one sort
couldn't
of
be-
plant, geothermal facility.
Correct. And so, and just to Randy's point, too, that the funding that we would, we may have to spend general funds to address the need for the geothermal if we do not receive a waiver. That's one. And two, when we have PFCs, and we're waiting on those revenues to come in, and Roxanne, don't correct me if I get this wrong, because this is a complicated budget, but if we don't receive, or until we receive those funds, it is reliant upon the A fund, the general fund, to support the airport until those funds come back often. We have been doing that for the last few years, you may recall, to the tune of about $900,000 or something to that effect. We have over the last 3 years to support debt service, and those funds are intended to come back to the county, but we do kind of support the airport in that way.
And so if we aren't able to get a waiver for geothermal for it to be paid by the FAA, will we have a decision point to make at that point, whether it's geothermal or?
We don't have a choice. We have to do geothermal. It's just a matter of how it gets paid for.
And we also, if I can jump in too quick, we've applied for another grant as well. In the event that we don't get the waiver, we do have another grant that can be used for that as well, another state grant too. So I think a 1.5 million grant. In the geothermal, it wouldn't be the full cost of the geothermal for the waiver. It would be, and I'm probably going to mess this completely up on which side it is. It's not the heating system within the building, it's the wells.
Yeah, it's
Josh,
below the ground.
Is that correct?
Terry's got a hand up. Maybe he can add to that.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah, so it would be the additional cost of the wells that we're trying to fund. You know, the issue with the location is that it's in the gas moratorium area, so we can't use natural gas, which leaves us with basically two choices. We can go with a delivered fuel like propane, fuel oil, wood pellets, or we could go with electric resistance or, you know, electricity. And then if you're looking at electricity, you're looking at either an electric resistance system, so using an electric resistance coil for a boiler to then heat water, or an electric furnace. The issue with going that route is that the initial cost of installation is cheaper than a geothermal system, but the actual cost of operating it, especially over time, is pretty large because of the demand charge associated. The geothermal system is pretty efficient at creating the heat, whereas if you're using a resistance unit, the demand charges, if you remember the presentation I gave to the legislature recently, the demand charges are what's really hammering us on some of our bills, and that ends up being just dramatically larger than if you went with a geothermal system. So working with the consultant that the airport has been using for this project, they did an analysis to see what would be the cheaper option, geothermal or a resistance unit over the course of time, and it came out that geothermal in the span of, I think it was 35, 40 years is the cheaper option, even though it has a higher initial cost.
Okay.
Thanks, Terry.
So there's a potential for greater out-of-pocket costs than what is being represented in this resolution. And when I say out of pocket, I mean out of county general
There is,
fund.
yes. Mhm.
Okay, but more to come.
More to come. We kind of, we have to wait and see where they are trying through the consultants to address that.
I just want to make sure that that's
Yeah,
clear and
no,
transparent.
It's likely we will come back with another outlay for the airport in the budget.
Come back to the well, so to speak.
Yes. I don't know whether, Terry, if I misrepresented the Dewar project at all, please correct me. That was my understanding. We were still waiting on that. There wasn't additional funding for that project at this point.
Yeah, the Dewar project's a little tricky. We had applied for some funding from the state at last year, in the middle of last year, and we received word that we hadn't received that funding at the end of the year. What we're waiting to find out is whether we're going to receive the roughly $1.7 million from the Inflation Reduction Act, and also tracking what's going on right now with the resolution that's making its way through Congress in terms of how it's going to impact future tax credits, clean energy tax credits. The latest that we had heard on the $1.7 million that we're waiting for is that our claim had been processed by the IRS. We are due a refund. It's not clear why that check hasn't been sent yet. So we've escalated it within the IRS. I've been checking in on a weekly basis. I'm going to call them actually this afternoon to see if there's any update. But we were supposed to have some sort of inkling of what was going on and what the holdup was within 30 days of us escalating, which happened roughly 2 weeks ago. So I'm hopeful that we'll have some news on what's going on with that 1.7 million relatively soon. And at that point, it'll be a decision to be made on where folks want to go with the Dewar project, whether it's just installing boilers or going with geothermal.
Thank you.
Terry, because the Dewar building currently has natural gas, so that's why that's an option?
Yeah, you can replace like for like system. If we were greatly expanding the building, that would be a different story. We couldn't put in much larger boilers, for instance, to facilitate an expansion. We would have to go with a different source for that. But if we're just replacing kind of like for like, whatever, 100,000 BTU boiler with another 100,000 BTU boiler, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Anything further on the first resolution? If not, let us vote. All in favor of the award of bid, say aye, or raise your hands. Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. Second resolution, award of contract and anticipated receipt and acceptance of FAA and New York State DOT grant conduct energy assessment, Ithaca Tompkins International Airport ID number 13300. Is there a motion? Moved by Mike, second by Randy. Anything on this you want to call out, Roxanne?
Really, this is going to follow along with our master plan. And again, just looking at, opportunities for energy efficiency improvements. The master plan is in process right now, that I'll be reporting to you on shortly as well, probably later this summer, as that's moving through. But this is just to see, what other opportunities are out there, cost savings, see where we're at. There's a pretty good description in the memo in the background, kind of going over that and upgrades and what's happening.
The grant offer from the FAA is in the amount of $128,250, and we would be using $3,375 from PSCs, correct?
Correct.
Greg?
Yeah, I'm all for this. It just seems like a lot of money, and I know it's not necessarily county money, but it seems like we just redid the airport. So I'm just curious on timing or the need or necessity for this, and is the payback, even though it's not, again, state money has to come from somewhere, right? So it comes from taxpayers. So I do look at this as or in federal money too. Is this going to generate a return, or is this just an expensive report that we'll have to make a few, minor changes in lighting or, adjusting thermostats, in one way or the other? I mean, what's the real impact of a report like this for $130,000?
I I think Josh has his hand up, so I'll let him kick this part off.
Yeah, so what this does, Greg, is the FAA requires us, one, for the geothermal grants and to make sure like airfield lighting. So any airfield lighting projects, it looks at the entire picture of the airport of where, when they're spending their money, they can actually reduce cost long-term of like replacement, that type of stuff. So when we brought this up with the geothermal a few years ago with the gas moratorium, this was a recommendation by the FAA, which then it puts it into like the DC area or headquarters, showing that we do have a moratorium. Hopefully it'll drive those people forward to issue the grants for the geothermal down the road. So in long term, yeah, it's $150,000 or whatever the study is, but it really could bring more money towards the bigger projects with the geothermal and that type of stuff going down the road. So it was a recommendation that we put it forward to go through that energy assessment with the FAA.
Yeah, I guess that makes me feel better about this, that they're driving that. Again, I don't want to waste money, not that this would be a waste of money, but it seems like right on the heels of a project where we should have been thinking about energy efficiency already.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what it's going to do is help, the FAA understand like the challenges we have for energy. If the grid's not stable and we can't get gas, they're going to then look at it and push some of the approvals through when we do buildings and geothermal, that type of stuff. So
great. Thank you for the clarity.
Yep.
Further questions? Shall we vote? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Josh. Resolution C, authorizing award of bid and anticipated receipt and acceptance of Federal Aviation Administration and New York State DOT grant for the purchase of snow removal equipment, SRE, blower, and broom. Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, ID number 13299. Is there a motion? Moved by Mike, second by Randy. Is this another Josh item?
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, so the FAA requires on our snow removal equipment with the standards that we have to look at replacement of vehicles every 15 years. Right now, we're looking at replacing a 2006 snow blower, which is really how the standard is governed, right? It all goes on that unit of how many tons of snow can blow per hour in our priority 1 areas in the certain amount of time. So this is a little overdue. We had it a few years ago. The bid numbers came in a little too high at that point, so we had to, reject the grant, and it's just a carryover. We're probably theoretically not going to be seeing this truck for 2 years, so we're going to be almost 21 years, so about 6 years too late.
2 years is pretty optimistic with the equipment right now, Josh.
Well, yeah, some of it's crazy. Fire trucks are 4 years or 48 months, which is, a little different.
So the awarded bid is $1,139,369.08. And local share is $28,797 to be taken from the PFCs. Mike.
Josh, is this a manufacturer that we've dealt with before?
Unfortunately not. The FAA likes low bid, which is fine, but the manufacturer that we've used in the past was Oshkosh out of Wisconsin. They actually were bought up by the MB Corporation. So really there's only one or two manufacturers in the country that meet all the FAA requirements, and we did have 2 bids. And MB was the lowest bid.
By about a little over 60,000.
Yep.
Further questions? Shall we vote? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Resolution D, authorizing award of bid and anticipated receipt and acceptance of FAA and DOT grant for the purchase of aircraft rescue and firefighting safety equipment, handheld tools, and personal protective equipment, personal protective PPE. Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, ID number 13298. Moved by Greg, second by Randy. And Josh, anything on this for us?
Yeah, so this goes along with the ARF vehicle that was granted and awarded last year. So when the FAA purchases a fire vehicle, they have a certain amount of equipment that they want placed on that equipment or on that vehicle. Being that the amount of the vehicle came in higher, we had to divide the grant last year and remove that money for the equipment, and they put it in this year's grant cycle. So it's really an extension of last year's grant cycle with the truck being awarded. But like I said, we had to stay in we were out of money. The federal government was out of money at that time. So to keep things moving through the ACIP, they separated that and then placed it back in this year's grant cycle.
Yeah, the total project cost $215,244.99, and again, local funds from the PFCs $5,381.99. That's what, a $1.2 million project thereabout overall?
You're about 2.4 with the truck and the equipment.
2.4. Oof.
Yeah.
Questions, Mike?
Josh, I just wondered, how many sets of protective gear does this provide?
So turnout gear, it's not in the grant because it would brought the cost up. The issue we have, and Lee knows this because he's been in the fire business a long time, is turnout gear, it doesn't matter if you wear it 40 times a day or 40 times a year, has a 10-year expiration date on it. So when you start looking at replacements, to get through a staff of 14 or 15 firefighters, you either have to put it all in a grant or start, replace 2 to 3 sets of gear a year to stay up on that 10-year cycle. This grant doesn't have any turnout gear in it because we did get turnout gear with the previous vehicle in 2022. So this is just hand tools, hose lines, stuff to go on the apparatus to make it usable.
So when they say personal protective equipment, that's hoses?
No, they were probably referring to the air packs. There's four air packs that are on the vehicle, that would go into the seats. So that would be your PPE.
Okay, thank you.
Randy?
Yeah, Josh and Roxanne, just because I don't understand. So how many employees do we have that are just there for fire response?
There's 14 of us.
Okay, have you ever responded to a fire?
Absolutely.
Okay. How often does that
They're
happen?
not solely for just fire, Randy, too. So they do multiple jobs. They're not just fire. They do all the operations, snow clearance, maintain the airfield.
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, so we're on the county mutual aid plan. So we do go off the airport as long as we maintain our minimum standards at the airport for the FAA. We've fought fire at the Suitcoat, polymer mill fire when that was on. We've done car fires on Route 13. We've done extrication jobs on Route 13 to assist our mutual aid partners. We've had airplane crashes in Ithaca. We do fire alarms and, gas detection in the terminal. We do EMS calls in the terminal. We've had full arrest saves in the terminal. So there's a fair amount of stuff that we do that, doesn't get broadcasted a lot because we're doing it in-house, but there is a standard also from the FAA that says we will have this equipment. We will be ready to go to keep our airline certification. So if the fire department was to go away at the airport in 24 hours, we would stop commercial air carrier operations.
Yeah, I understand that. So the equipment, as you know, is so expensive. I actually was touring the Enfield Fire Department, and their equipment is sparkles. They clean it every time it comes back, and they have a big cleaning area. Do you currently have that? Or will the new building have the ability to really clean this equipment each time it's used?
Well, we do wash our stuff. If it goes out, goes out on truck checks every day, it gets washed every day. Once a week, they do insides and outs. We have pressure washers and clean our apparatus. You know, the new building will probably have a better cleaning area, but right now we do it in our bays, just like most fire departments do. Yeah, we know the equipment is super expensive, and, you know, we did purchase out of the budget a new gear washer this year, so when we do our trainings, the gear should be cleaned, and so it keeps the carcinogens off the firefighters because of the cancer issues that we've found out about over the years of experience and stuff like that. You know, I'll say 20 years ago when we were all doing it, we didn't know what we know now. So that's why it's so important to keep the apparatus clean and your air packs clean and your turnout gear clean. So, you know, long-term effects don't affect the employee, not so much the equipment.
Yeah, I have a good friend who worked for the Ithaca Fire Department, and he had a lot of issues because of the materials he was dealing with. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if we knew what we knew now 30 years ago or 40 years ago, I think there'd be a lot less of that stuff around. But.
Thank you.
That's why my hair's turned gray, Randy. Any further questions? All in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Anything more, Roxanne, from the airport?
I think that's it for today.
We'll look forward to hearing a little bit more on the long-range plans at the June meeting.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh. Got a fairly substantial item here moving forward to the downtown facilities discussion. And Arel, do you want to come up and join us? I don't know how much Randy's going to turn over to you on this. Terry's with us as well. If I'm going to have Randy kind of bring us up to date on downtown facilities and bring forward the resolution.
Great. I'll bring forward resolution 13304, amending resolution number 2024-36, a resolution designating placement of departments within downtown facilities.
Motion's made, second by Mike.
So we did a resolution last year to designate the departments proposed to go into the new Center of Government building. And after Holt has been hired to analyze this, they've met with all the departments, looked more at space requirements, all those things. And based on interviews with departments and whatnot, they have proposed the departments noted in the second to last resolved that they would be in this building. I'd actually like to read that last resolved, if you don't mind.
Please do.
So resolve for that a center government building of approximately 45,000 gross square feet of designed to include assessment, county administration, county attorney, county clerk, district attorney, finance, human resources, information technology services, Office of the Aging, Office of Human Rights, Veterans Services, Department of Planning and Sustainability, and the Tompkins County Transportation, Ithaca Tompkins County Transportation Council. And those are the ones who are currently proposed to go in here. And the reason they needed to do this was to understand the total square footage that was going to be required for this, but also to do preliminary designs of the building so we can determine what this might cost. And so that's why we're at this point. And Arel, jump right in.
You want to mention the Board of Elections? The fact that that's been removed?
Yep, I'm sorry. The last resolve is further that the county relocate the Board of Election staff and election machine storage to the Human Services Annex, which is down on State Street.
So that's the most substantial change from what we've talked about in the past. That's coming out of the mix of departments and utilizing the facility that would be abandoned, for lack of better terminology, by the Office for Aging.
The other big change was workforce development. The original, I think they were planned to go into the new building, and now they're proposed to go into the first and second floor of the old jail. So that's the other big change there. The only comment Aurel, I have on that, I thought that when Holt was here, they calculated the building would be 40,000 square feet, and this is 45. So maybe I misread it, what they had proposed, but.
Yes, I will respond to that. So the original resolution that was written was 55,000 square feet. The whole calculation just put us right on 40,000 square feet. So when we were doing the resolution internally, because the building design has not actually been done yet, we, instead of reducing the square footage down to the exact number on hold analysis of 40,000, I basically indicated we should leave it at 45,000 to give a room for adjustment based on actual design needs. But the actual design will tell us exactly how much that building will be. But this resolution reduces the initial expectation of 55,000 to 45,000. But the actual design will tell us exactly how, because there's some element of the analysis that is not captured in the allocation of spaces, and that will be captured in the building design itself.
Thank you.
Questions? Greg?
Yeah, I don't support the Board of Elections. I don't support the use of the Human Service Annex for that purpose.
Okay. Yeah, so I just want to speak to that in terms. Yeah, so I just want to speak to that in terms of what was provided to us in our analysis with HALT. The HALT was looking at the maximization of an existing county facility and its usage. The original resolution and the needs of those departments, Board of Election, Workforce Development, and others was to provide access to a first floor and have access to easy access to the public. We determined through the analysis that these departments will not be able to be incorporated in the first floor of the central government project. That's the reason why they were designed out. So for the Board of Election, the reason why we indicated Human Service Annex building, because the county owns the building at the moment and we are maximizing the use of existing county asset. So it's your decision that if we decided not to allocate that building to the Board of Elections, then we will still have the responsibility of identifying a different location, either a lease property that the Board of Election will go into. So that final resolution that is asking for the Board of Election to go into the Human Services Annex is completely, it can be taken out of the resolution because it's a different item that has to be treated separately because we need to find a different place for them. So it can be the Human Services Annex. We look at that because we have right over that property, but you can decide that you want us to go out and look for a different property and lease or buy to certify the Board of Election needs, then it's your discretion and we will do that.
With that move to the annex, is that bringing all the voting machines and everything that's out at the leased site
Yes.
back in under one roof? And how many square feet is the annex? Roughly 5,000, probably?
Yeah, it's more than that. The program needs about 6,600 square feet. So I think it's a little more than, with all the mechanical spaces, I think it's 7,400 square feet. The Human Services Annex. Holt designed that actually back in 2012, 2014. I was involved in that project, so they know that building well. As far as the department right now, about half of that 66 is storage. Up at Hanshaw Road, I think they're leasing 3,200 square feet. Of that, up there, they've got mechanical spaces, bathrooms, and things that wouldn't be needed when they come down here. They'd be sharing that with the office program Board of Elections has down here. So, I mean, it's a good fit. I mean, we did a test fit, and that program for both their voting machines and training space, as well as their offices here, fit very well in the Board of Elections. They're a single-story building, have good access for their voting machines, which was really key when we were considering their program in the center of government. They wanted to be on the first floor, but there are many departments that are public-facing, and we just couldn't fit all of the departments, so it was not a good fit. And also, Board of Elections really didn't want to be there. And so I think it worked well that we were able to at least make a recommendation. As of course has said, if the legislature feels that's not a good fit in that building, we would then have to look either for doing another building for them or leasing property. They want to be in the city. They don't want to be split between, Hanshaw and their offices here. So that's what's in the resolution, but we anticipated that there would be others that may not agree with that. We're just trying to move the project along. I think really key in this resolution is those departments that are going in the center of government, because we really have to start the schematic design so that we can come up with a good firm estimate of the total project cost.
Couple more questions, follow-up then. So to put them back in at this juncture would add 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 square feet back to the 45,000.
Correct. You're saying putting it back to center of government. Correct. Yeah, and that 66, that's what we call departmental gross. So of course I was saying earlier that 45, we take the total of their departmental gross, which is really just their office spaces, and then you put a little factor for circulation within their program, and then we put in a grossing factor that brings you to this 45,000, which also, has a factor in there for some growth. So that's how we got from the 40, I think that Randy, it was like 39,555 is the departmental gross. To get to the gross number, you put in a grossing factor to accommodate mechanical spaces, bathrooms, stairwells, elevators, security, all of these things that are not part of a specific program in a building.
Right, but half of what you add back for the Board of Elections or address with the Board of Elections would be more or less warehousing space for the machines.
Correct.
And that's an in and out movement of probably 100 and some different types of machines, however many times a year we hold an election.
Right.
Yeah, so you're bringing in vehicles to
right.
do that transfer. It'd be an interesting operation in the midst of the complex. Corsa.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that Board of Election being designed out of the building is because of the need for a first floor location. The majority of the first floor is being designed as more of an atrium space for security, public entry to the building, ease of access, and all those pieces. So the Board of Election request is to be on the first floor, but the building, as we're looking at it, cannot contain them. So we cannot design them back in the building. That's the reason why we designed them out of the building. So the option will be Human Services Harness or another building, but we won't be able to design them back into the building because of the square footage we're looking to build, and also the elements of the design that the HALT is recommending to be an ideal office space for that degree of number of public encounter that we are trying to have.
Greg.
Yeah, slightly different topic. I hope as we're looking at this too, we're looking at function over form, because often architects and designers will look at form over function. I have a slight hesitation with large atrium style. I mean, they're incredibly inefficient to cool and heat. The maintenance cost is much higher. You need lifts to get to windows, to change light bulbs, to do anything like that. So to have a grand entrance for grand entrance sake is one thing. The question is, what real purpose is that serving, and what are the trade-offs that we're willing to accept, and the benefit that we're going to get then in that? Because Atrium is like the most inefficient way to build in many cases. Understand that it can add natural light and can add interior windows and can do things like that. But at what cost? And then at what long-term maintenance cost are we going to also see with an atrium style entry? You can have a nice entrance that's a single story and gain that floor plate on the floors above and not lose that like you would in an atrium style. So I hope we're really pushing back on function over form and then long-term operational impacts to multi-story floors and entryways.
Yes, I mean, this discussion on these things is very preliminary at this point until we really agree to who's going in there, that we can start the schematics. Yes, I push the function all the time with them. And I've worked with Holt for many years on many projects. So they're not like most other architects that really push kind of cookie cutter and those things. And so I think if we do arrive with some form of an atrium, I think it's going to be more for functionality, because there's no way that we can put all of the public departments on a first floor. Because we have to take into account, we've got to have a main lobby. We're looking at security issues as well when we design that into a new building. We're looking at, kind of one stop for our county residents. So when they come into the building, they can go to a few counters and deal with county business instead of having to go to all the public-facing departments in the building. So at this point, we've not really agreed on any type of architecture. And believe me, that at least facilities, Downtown Facilities Committee will be involved in those types of recommendations. This is also going to be a LEED gold project, and so all of that is looked at as far as efficiencies of the building and design. So yes, I think these are ideas that are being floated, but nothing has been really decided until we start the schematic design phase.
Mike? I just think the point that both Arel made and Corsa about the downtown, the first floor of this new building is going to have to be open to the public. There's going to be county clerk's office there and other things that you just have to, people have to be able to get into. And we can't really, if there isn't room for the storage, then I think we need to just find another place, and the annex makes a lot of sense to me. I hope we're not just going to build another big box here. I can remember going back when they had urban renewal was the craze, and they tore down a lot of buildings in Ithaca, and we look back at it from a historical perspective and we think it was a terrible decision what they did. It took down the Cornell Library, which was a beautiful building. Yeah, it needed renovation, no question, but and the Cornell Library was downtown, not at Cornell. They took down the old city hall, put an ugly parking ramp up, and now they want to tear that down. And now just look what they've done in the downtown area of Ithaca. Soulless buildings that they're building. I hope we're not going to do that. We're building a municipal building. Municipal buildings historically and traditionally have to be a step above. And they have to look like something. They have to be something that the community is going to be proud of now and in the future. I think in 20, 25 years, people are going to look back on the current era in the Ithaca and say, oh my God, why did they ever do that? Well, they're doing that because how can they maximize their taxes for the smallest possible parcels? They want to be a big city, and it's not a big city. We don't have the population for it, but they certainly have changed things. So I hope that our building will be something that folks can be very proud of to look at from both the outside and the inside. how that's going to be laid out and what the architects are going to recommend, I guess, as you say, Harrell, we're very early into that and we have time to see it. But as I said, in downtown facilities, I'm not in favor of every square inch of Ithaca having a big box apartment building with just more vertical sprawl. It's not I don't live in the city, but I've known the city since I was a little boy, and it makes a difference to me.
Thanks, Mike. Randy?
Mike, I agree with all that except for the annex building. So I'm with Greg on that one. It's a one-story building and can be utilized. One of the questions that came up was the current plan is not to have a basement in this new building, or we just don't know if we can have a basement because of parking or.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, no decisions have been made about that. Okay. It would be explored, but at this point, I can't say yes or no.
Right. And I thought I read something on Board of Elections that they do not want to have to put machines on elevators. Is that something I read or?
Yes, we had discussed that months ago with them, because we didn't think it was practical to put storage on a first level. I mean, that's just, it's very costly, but even basement is costly and elevators are costly. So we suggested that as an option. They were not in favor. It would add cost because at that point, then we would have to commit to doing that. So at this point, we haven't committed to doing a basement. And the only thing that we would, if we did, would be for mechanical spaces, most likely. Or let's say if we had to provide some parking underneath the building, which is also not desirable. But we had suggested that we would have necessitated a freight elevator, which we were not planning to put in the building. And so we would have had to do two basically elevator shafts, one for freight and one for staff and public use. But yes, that was considered. They didn't like, and I think they reached out to the state about putting voting machines in a basement level for just concerns of flooding. So, but yes, that was explored briefly.
Now, also, did Holt do a survey on the number of people coming into each one of these departments on a daily basis?
Yes, as part of the program space verification, they sent questionnaires to each of the departments, and so the departments responded initially with amount of public traffic that they would see. As part of further design, we're going to explore that further to come up with parking numbers. They've already started their traffic and public study, and so that's an ongoing. So things that may be considered is they may have each department kind of track the public that's accessing their departments. We did that years ago when we did the health department, basically have them track their numbers. But yes, that's something that we would do and need to come up with to really come up with public parking if we do public parking on the site. Because right now it's just staff parking.
There's no planned parking for people coming to the building?
No, I said that we are. Right now, the lot, this downtown complex has no public parking. It's county parking. And as part of this project, we are looking at the parking, how much public parking we're going to provide. Once we provide public parking on the lots, then we're also subject to the ADA requirements for accessible parking, which is based on the size of the building. And so once we open it up to the public, we are required to provide those accessible parking spots. Right now, this lot is not required to do that because it's private.
Okay, that's concerning, but we'll move ahead. So. Greg.
I don't want to open a can of worms or feel like I'm throwing a grenade here, but did we look at the library space at all, or any extra space at the library for Board of Elections? I don't know how big the library footprint is, but
72,000 square feet.
72, yeah.
And just a loose question mark. I'm sure the library folks may have a different opinion, respectfully, but just curious if, that seems like a pretty centralized self-service kind of location. And I'm assuming they'd have a loading dock as well?
They don't have, really, it's not a loading dock. There's an area in the back. They don't have overhead doors. They have just probably a 3-foot wide door. They have it where you pull up, because it used to be the southeast corner of the library building was the Finger Lakes Library System, had offices there, and we renovated those, gosh, maybe over 10 years ago. So the library took over that space for staff space. But the Finger Lakes Library System used to be on that ground floor, that back corner, closest to the creek there. Bless you. And so they would be transporting books to all of the libraries around the county. So they would pull up their vans and load those up. But there's no loading dock per se, where it's they can just bring a large truck and roll the voting machines to.
Which is the same case at the Human Service
Correct.
Annex. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Further questions? Well, you need a starting place to move forward with a building design, and I think we've talked this through. It will be, we'll isolate it on the agenda at the legislature so there can be a broader discussion, or at least more inclusive discussion among the members. Any idea where 45,000 square feet may land us on a price? And I'm leaving that as kind of an open thing, but is the committee, downtown facility committee, are you contemplating backup plans if this bid comes in at something far more than what we've anticipated? Is there a fallback plan? I mean, we've bandied about a $40 million number. What if it comes in at 60 million? And, what would that do to the process here? And maybe I'm just kind of leaving that as an open question. I mean, I'll support the resolution today, but I'm still nervous moving forward about what we may see and how that's going to fold into the broader capital program and budget moving forward.
I'll be excited. I'm not excited about building this building. Maybe that's why they put me in charge of this. But it's a process, and the process has to go through, and you have to come to a decision point. And decide do nothing is not an option, because we need more space. We've got to find place for the clerk's office. There's other things we have to do. We don't really have a fallback plan other than utilizing the facilities that we have. I know that course has looked into rental spaces for temporary use. So I think those are our current backup plans as we move forward. So.
When we get the design back, will that be giving us an analysis of what the carbon footprint may look like in a facility this size versus what we're using today?
I mean, that's part of our analysis. And Terry is, oh yeah, he's still on there, but yeah, so that's something that we will be working on. I think probably by the end of schematic, we should have enough information on the mechanical side. But yeah, that's something that is part of our policy to look at that. Tatum Engineering is a sub-consultant that will be doing that for the HALT team. And they're starting to engage all of these subcontractor or sub-consultants in the project already, gearing up for moving forward with schematic design. And so once this resolution, as far as the department's going to center of government, then we can give them the green light to get started on that, which our hope is at least by next Tuesday.
And conceivably, all of this is going to lead to the discussion of how you fuel the building, so to speak.
Well, we're looking at geothermal is the option for heating and cooling the building. I know that Terry's involved, and I'm also working with him. They're looking at doing district geothermal on this block with CHA as a consultant looking at that. So Holt is aware of that. our hope is that if that is a good viable project, that we would tie into that, but if not, then we would do geothermal just for the center of government building.
Okay. Greg?
Oh, well, are we, I guess I have two questions as it relates to budget. Are we seeing or hearing that costs per square foot are above $850 a square foot for a project like this?
850? Mm-hmm. No.
Okay, because that's 40 million divided by 45,000. And in that 40 million, are we expecting that estimate to cover the renovations of the first floor of this building, the old jail? That's a total project reconfiguration of county space number? Right,
so yeah, the number, it's the project cost, it's not the building cost. So the center of government project cost would include the construction, would include the deconstruction, the construction of the new building, but also the renovation of both the old jail and this building. It's always been, that's always been part of the project. So that the number is, so yeah, you don't take the number and just divide it by 45. It's all in. It includes the architectural fees. Every single cost related to this project would be included in that number.
Yeah, I was just looking at a total, cost all in. But that if we're including the other buildings, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we haven't touched the old jail. The last major renovation was when they renovated it for, the departments that are in there now, from a jail to that. That was in the early 90s. We've wanted to do that, but the last probably 10 years we've been talking about center of government, so we've not wanted to go in there and renovate it until a decision was made to move forward on that. So yeah, we would go back and renovate it. I mean, another good thing with this resolution is that that was noted is that workforce development, which is also with the Department of Labor and assigned council, will be going to the old jail. It's a perfect fit. We've met with them last week and they are excited about it. And we were a little concerned about the Department of Labor, but they're excited about that. In essence, it's almost, they have a building that is easy for, their customers to find. That's one of the challenges they have at Center Ithaca is wayfinding. It's hard to get to them first to get into the Center Ithaca and then figure out where they are in the building. It's better quality space than they currently have. There are a lot of issues there. So they're really excited and it's a perfect fit for them.
Great. Anything further?
The only other issue that's moving quickly is the deconstruction process. We're still waiting for final approval, I believe, from SHPO on that. But the plan is, if we get approval, to start that this year, which may mean relocating the assessment office and Board of Elections and those kinds of things. So that's moving forward, but no definitive plan is set yet.
Yeah, two more questions.
Yeah.
When do you hope to see a design, and will there be some decision points within that, the design and the schematics, some options? What are we going to see first of all after we pass this resolution, and when?
So we would give, I would give HALT to go ahead to start schematic design. So since we already have the space programs for each of the department, they'll make decisions of who's going where, knowing the public facing departments. Most likely, well, they will be on the first and second floors, and then the non-public facing departments would be on the third and fourth floors. So they'll do kind of we call it bubble diagram, coming up with that. Then we'll start meeting with the departments and talking about kind of layout in each floor. We would, I'm sure, be coming back to the committee, talking about security issues, because we have also a security consultant, and really the level of security that the county wants. We will be meeting internally with our safety and security group to discuss those things. So yeah, there'll be points during schematic design where we'll be coming back to at least the Downtown Facilities Committee to make recommendations, get some approval so that we can move forward with the design. But yeah, it's going to take probably the next 5 to 6 months.
How's that fold into the budget process for you, Corsa?
Well, it's fun. Okay, I think The commitment that was made last year for allocating funding to start the project, that is fine. That is not going to be impacted at this point. Budget process for 2026 is moving on. We are looking at everything in totality. So from our analysis, we will leverage the capital funding for the central government project. So we are not putting specific funding in the 2026 budget for it because you already made provisions for that. So the actual timeline for real construction for the project, I believe, is about 2027. And we may be coming in mid-2026 to discuss any specific bonding for the project construction itself, but it will not impact our 2026 budget as of now.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have, I think there's $9 million reserved specifically for this project right now. One of the things that I think that came with a good solution for this discussion was the relocation of the IT department, a fairly simple one and not super expensive as far as that. And Access Administration is offered to relocate into existing space or other space we find. And then that would be their temporary home. So I think that was a good solution.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest concerns was how the IT move will be. So with county administration moving, IT will be able to just move our wiring and everything to that building, and eventually when the central government is built, it can easily be transferred or relocate to the central government, which would be very cost effective and efficient. So yes, we will eventually move. We will move first and pave way for others to also follow suit. I think one thing I just want to say is that there will be some degree of discomfort and a need for all of us to be flexible in our approach for us to be successful at the project. And I'm hoping that every single department that will be impacted will be sufficiently accommodating for us to be able to move forward with this approach. There will be some discomfort, there will be some adjustment that we all need to make sure the county eventually is successful at the end of the day.
Appreciate that. Anything further?
So my final words is to give us the ability to move forward to the next step of actually looking at how the building is going to look like. What other decision points that we need to do in terms of leasing, also give our ability to go out and start negotiating for spaces that department will need to relocate into. Some of those spaces will not be there for us in perpetuity. We need to start having those conversations quickly. And it doesn't tie our hands. We can always come back based on what will be seen by the consultant in design phases will also inform any degree of adjustment that will be required and any action that will be required. So the legislative flexibilities also will be required as we move forward in our approach, but we're looking at the most effective and efficient way of getting this process moving.
Thanks, Course.
Thank you.
Shall we vote? All in favor? Opposed? Record shows one opposed. We'll move this forward to the legislature and have a more inclusive discussion. And your concerns are noted. Thanks, Greg. Are there any committee reports, committee members' reports? Anything anybody wants to add? From administration, we went by that earlier. So sounds like we've covered things for today. Thanks everybody for being here.
All right, thank you.
We'll stand adjourned.